it's Anne-Marie. Welcome back into my channel. Today we are going to do the step-by-step tutorial on how I created this adorable little fall-themed mini album as my design team project for Country Craft Creations. If you want to look through take a look at, the page-by-page project share, that is on my YouTube channel. Sorry, I'm having troubles today. So this is a 6.5 by 6.5 inch album, fall themed, and love those ribbons. Actually, it's seam binding, and those little leaves, the little leaf die cuts, adorable. But anyway, so yeah, let's go ahead and start off first with the covers. And before we start, just some of the basic supplies that I always have on hand. My favorite scissors, my favorite bone folder. It's a Teflon bone folder. I've probably had this 5 years now, and look, it still looks like it's brand new. My pokey thingy, that just helps me get the backers off of my, the score tape. Helps me get the paper backing off. I was using my craft knife until I cut myself, so stop that. My favorite ruler, that has seen better days. And then just the various sizes of score tape. The two most common ones I use are the 3/8 inch or the 1/4 inch. And I don't always use these all the time when I'm making an album. Well, that's a lie. I do use these when I'm constructing the covers because I think you need a really good adhesive. But most times I use my art glitter glue on my page construction, but just for the purposes of speeding up the video and the tutorial for you, I've been using score tape. So anyway, so let's jump in. So to start off, you're going to need, oh sorry, I forgot to mention, I also need my paper trimmer and a scoreboard, which I have those set aside, and my large dolly paper cutter is actually across the room. So anyway, so let's start off with the medium weight chipboard. I always use medium weight chipboard. I have made albums with a lighter weight chipboard, but I feel like they just get a little wonky. If I'm making a folio, especially a folio that's like a slim folio or more trim, I'll use a lightweight chipboard, but I do prefer this heavier weight chipboard. It flexes a little bit, but not too much. I just think it helps protect the covers. So go ahead and cut yourself 2 pieces that are 6.5 by 6.5. And then for your spine, you're going to want a piece that is, well, depending on how many pages you decide to put in. My book has 5 pages. My binding system, which I use this one, it's called a T-square binding. You see that? Oh, it's hard to show you. There, see, it looks like, there we go. It looks like a T. I like to use the individual fins. That hidden hinge, I can never get it straight. It makes me crazy, so I prefer this one. So the binding, you always get a nice even 1/2 inch in between each page. So since I have 5 pages, I need at least a 3-inch spine. Make sense? So if you want to do 6 pages, add a 1/2 inch. Okay, so anyway, and then to wrap our cover, you're going to want 2 pieces of your, well, I like to use artisan cardstock for my covers, and I am actually very, very spoiled. I will not use anything else for my inside pages either. So, yeah, so you can get that paper in Tammy's store. It's the artisan cardstock. It's a linen. I don't know if you'll be able, if the camera picks up the linen. No, it doesn't. Sorry. But it's beautiful. This is like the ivory color, I believe it's called. It's just so smooth and it never cracks, and I'm a big fan. Okay, so anyway, so since our cover is 6.5 inches tall, I went ahead and cut a piece of the cardstock. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. At 8.5 inches. That's just so that when I lay my page, or I'm sorry, my chipboard here, when I adhere it down, I have 1 inch on this end, 1 inch on this end, and I put 1 inch over here for wrapping, so that gets a really nice coverage. You don't have to do 1 inch. If you can get away with doing just a 1/2 inch, you know, bless you, because I don't know, I always have trouble when I think, oh, I can do just a 1/2 of an inch. It always ends up badly. So, let me just check the focus here. Something is funny. Bear with me 1 second. Let's see. Looks like our focus is funky. No, that's worse. There we go. Thanks for sticking in. Anyway, so I took one piece that is 8.5 inches by 12, and then I need this little piece over here. I cut this at 7 1/4 by 8.5, and then I just added a piece of 1/4 inch score tape right along the edge and adhered them together so you can see where they stick together. So you have one long continuous sheet of cardstock. Okay, and one trick that I've learned along the way is to, before you adhere them together, go ahead and score 1 inch 1 inch down on your left-hand side, or if you're left-handed, if you want it down on your right-hand side, or however you prefer to do it. But I score 1 inch so it helps me line it up, so I always have that at least 1 inch to wrap. Then I also score 1 inch from the bottom. I don't know if you can actually see that. See how that score line goes all the way across? Just helps me keep everything lined up beautifully. All right, so you can actually choose your favorite adhesive. You can use a wet glue to adhere your chipboard. I'm just a little bit impatient and I like to use my score tape. As you can see, I have various sizes of score tape here. I had some score tape sheets left, some scraps, so I wanted to use those up. If you can get your hands on some of these sheets, they're Tammy sells, I believe, the sizes that are 6 by 6, and she also has some 8.5 by 11. I just ran out, so they are a huge time saver. So go ahead and add your score tape or whatever adhesive you want, and just removing the backing. See how this works? So this pokey tool works so nicely to remove the backing, and it doesn't stick to my nails. All right, so we don't have to worry about, since this is 6.5 inches square, but I don't like the way that one looks. Okay, so I am going to, I don't know if you can tell, but this is where my 1 inch score lines intersect. I'm going to put the bottom left corner right on that intersection and just line it up as best you can. Stick it down. I like to, oops, oh, what's that? I like to give it a good burnish. Okay, and then this is where the 1/4 inch score tape comes into play for me. It's just very helpful for me to line up the score tape right along the edge of that chipboard. And it works in 2 ways. It actually helps the pattern paper that you put on top. It helps hold that down, but then it also gives you proper spacing in between each one of your pieces of chipboard. Okay, so there you have your left or your front cover. And then this is my spine piece. As I mentioned, it's 3 by 6.5. I'm going to take off the backer. You can add your adhesive. Oh, and another piece of advice. I would watch the video all the way through because, I mean, I'm close to perfect. But things happen, right? So, yeah, just in case I have to change a measurement or something, your best bet would be to watch me all the way through. All right, and then, so we just stuck that down. You have the nice even space. It's hard to see because of the wording on the score tape, but there's definitely a 1/4 inch space there. And let's go ahead and add another 1/4 inch on the other side of the spine. And I'm going to remove all the backing on my right side cover or my back cover. I'm going to try to remove it. The weather here is so gorgeous today. Fall has finally arrived in the Northeast or southwestern Pennsylvania, where I'm from. The sun's out, but there's a nice cool breeze and the leaves are turning. Yeah, we had 90 degrees 2 times last week, or this past week. Today's Saturday. But yeah, it's finally here, everybody. All right, so then next, I'm just going to take this cover, line it up along my 1 inch score line. Oops, you can't even see that. Along my 1 inch score line, and stick it down. So you see we have one big long cover. Okay, and let me see, I'm going to take my bone folder, just give it all a really nice burnish. Make sure that whether you use glue or you know, a dry adhesive or a score tape, it's always good to give it a good burnish, just so that you get a nice stick or a good stick. All right, so you should have something that looks like this. Okay, sorry if I moved that too fast to make you dizzy. So what we're going to do next is we're going to, so this is, I think, a little more than an inch. I probably didn't measure. Oh yeah, that's 1 3/8. So you could probably, instead of 7 1/4, you could probably get away with 7 inches. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead. Actually, let's go ahead and start training the paper along the top. You can see that. We're just kind of training it of what we're going to want it to do. Okay? So I like to do the top. Then I use my table or my desktop and just give it a little bit, you know, just kind of show it what you want it to do, because the paper will go wherever you put it. All right, and then we'll do the same. You can stand it up like this. I don't know if you can see that. Turn it over. Just kind of starts, gives the paper an idea where you want it to go. Plus it makes it easier so that you can see exactly where you want to miter your corners. Now, there's a couple of things you can do, and it's all a matter of personal preference. See where the score lines intersect right there? You can cut out that square and you can wrap it that way, or you can miter your corner. You know, you've all seen me do this before. Just cut your corner out before you wrap it. I prefer to do it that way, and for no other, I've done it both ways, but for no other reason than that's the way I always do it. There is no right way or wrong way. It's just what you like to do, and the more of these you make, these mini albums you make, the quicker you're going to find out what is your favorite way. I mean, you can buy all the tools, you know. There's apparently some little yellow plastic thing that you can, a template you can place on there. I don't have time for that. I like to do things my way. So, okay. So, first thing I always try to do is to remember to remove that piece of score tape from in between each one of the pieces of your chipboard. You know, I'm sure you, well, maybe you don't know, but I can tell you, I have on so many occasions completely forgotten to remove it. Not that it hurt anything, or and it, you know, didn't harm anything, but see, it's always when the camera's on. Oh, good Lord. Okay, let's see. Oops. Got that a little too close. There we go. Anyway, so many times I forgot to remove it, and just makes me feel silly. Like a big dummy. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, this is the exciting part for you all, and just remove all of this paper backing. This is where the full-size sheets of the score tape are a big help. Makes it a lot easier. Okay. Oh, come on. All right, we're almost there. Alright, so now, whoops, where'd that come from? Alright, so now I like to work from the top. I like to wrap the chipboard from the top. It's just easier for me. I don't know. Whatever works for you. Okay. And just fold it over. And then I just like to give it a good stick it down. Okay, and then I'm going to turn this around and do the same on the bottom, which is now on the top for me. Okay, stick it down. And then what I like to do is just lift this up, flatten that a little bit. Do the same over here. Okay, so now we're going to wrap the corner. So you see we have that little bit of a overhang right there. So this is where you just push in that little corner that's sticking out. Then I remove my tape backer and then just fold that over. Then you end up with a nice clean corner. Everything's covered, there's no chipboard peeking out. So let's do that again over here. Just going to pop that in. I apologize if you can hear my neighbor's dog barking. He's not even my neighbor, he's like way behind me. Poor dog. Anyway, so fold that over and we gave that a good burnish. Then what I like to do is come in here so that top piece of cardstock adheres to that channel. Same on this side. So you see how it's lifting see how it was lifting that up? So everything's nicely wrapped, and I did forget, yikes, I need to cut the top pieces of cardstock to cover all the rest of the chipboard. So this is 6.5 inches, so I'm going to want to cut this down to probably 6 3/8. And I'm going to go with 6 3/8 by 12, and then I'm going to need another little piece, oh, probably a 3.5 by 12. And I'm going to do that right now. So we're back. Let's move that out of the way. Sorry about this. I thought I was ready for everything. I have all the pages cut. I have everything ready to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some score tape around the perimeter of the page. Again, you can use glue. I wouldn't recommend ATG, although I love my ATG gun. I don't use that for the construction of books. It's just, in my opinion, it's just not strong enough because they are going to take quite a bit of abuse. All right, so let's remove that. All right, so here is our book. So I'm going to go ahead and just try to leave a little bit of a border all the way around. Give this a good burnish. Okay, so we stuck that page down. And a little bit too big, but that's okay. So I'm going to add some score tape around, just like I did the other one, the perimeter. Because again, you don't need it because there's adhesive in the middle. If it makes you feel better, go ahead and add more. Okay. If you all could see how many of these, by the time I finish a book, start to finish, you know, for the covers and making all the pages, if you can see, imagine how many of these little strips are in my crafter. They're kind of all over the place. I'll just get them out of my way. All right, and then we're just going to do the same. I'm going to leave my little about 1/8 of an inch border over here. Line it up as best I can. Hope you can see that with where I've left this one. Try to keep it all straight. Okay. So I don't know if that seam there bothers you. It doesn't bother me because that is going to get covered with pattern paper and nobody's ever going to see it. Same for this seam back here. That's not even going to show because it's going to be covered with my pattern paper. So yeah, so there we have our chipboard is wrapped. So, but what we want to do is, I hope this comes through. Just if you, because remember we have the front cover, the spine, and then the back cover. What we're going to want to do is just give a little bit of a lift up on this side of the book, so you see where it's forming the crease in between the two pieces of chipboard. So what I like to do at this point, is lift this up, give this a really good burnish. Don't press too hard. You have to give it some pressure. But what I'm doing is, again, taking this top piece of cardstock and kind of forcing it and pushing it down into that channel. And that's where, so you see how it has a really, really good indentation there? And that's how you know your cardstock is not going to break, or what's the word? Crack. Plus, if you use this cardstock, it's never going to crack anyway, because it's just fantastic. All right, let's do the same on the other side. Lift it up. So you can see there's my entire spine is exposed. Just give it just tiny, gentle pressure. Because again, you don't want to poke. You don't want to poke through that top layer of cardstock. That's why, specifically for this reason, that's why I highly, highly recommend these Teflon bone folders. You can see it's rounded. It's not pointy. This end has a little bit of point to it, but I just don't use that for specifically for this purpose. I use the rounded part. It's not to say that I haven't gotten really heavy-handed, because I have actually destroyed a cover by cutting through it here, but chances are it's not going to happen. So there you go. And then I give it a nice final burnish, because at this point, sometimes it depends on, you might not have left enough space in between your two pieces of chipboard. Sometimes your paper right in here can lift up or wrinkle. Yeah, just have to be careful. So there is our base book done. Right? So you have your front cover, your spine, and your back cover. Everything looks beautiful. There's the view from the top and from the side. Not much, but that's that. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this one more. There we go. So you see in that paper with some, I don't want to say cheaper papers, but with some not as good, with some other paper, lesser papers with lesser fibers, they would have cracked and torn already, but you can see that's just absolutely beautiful. I'm actually going to go ahead. One thing I forgot to do, I like to give this a nice little burnish as well. So if there is any paper that's not making good contact with the score tape underneath, this will definitely get it. And if there is any wrinkle. So 9 times out of 10 I cover my spine anyway, but you know, you never know. So, okay, so that is our cover made. So I will be back in just a few minutes. I'll get everything together and we will start on making the inside pages. Are you kidding me? All right, so let's get started. So if you set your cover aside, you might want to just grab it back again. So what we're going to do is do the pocket on the front cover and the pocket on the back cover. Let's just go ahead and add those now. You can decide if you want to hold off on doing the front and back cover until the end. Some people like to cover the entire page and then put the pocket on. I just think that's a waste of paper, but it's, you know, totally your choice. So let's start with the left front. Actually, they're both the same, so it doesn't matter which one you start with. But you're going to want a piece of your base color cardstock. And I say that because a lot of people like to do like maybe cream and craft. They like to change up the colors or mix the colors of their pages. And by all means, you know, I've done it. I think it's really cool. But I think what I'm going to use this one for, after I make this book, I think I'm going to do a tween age girl book. Yeah, so after we go through this and then I finish decorating, I'll come back on and show you what I do with it. But anyway, so let's get started with the pocket. So you're going to want one piece of your cardstock that's 4 inches by 7 1/4. Okay, and then you're going to want to put this in your scoreboard and score at 1/2 inch. Let me show you that. My big old scoreboard. Doesn't matter where you start, but you're going to score at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. So 1/2 inch, rotate, score at 1/2 inch down the long side, and then on the other short side, score it at 1/2 inch. Okay, so that's what I mean when I say score 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Although I'm sure you all know that, but there's, you know, I do have several new viewers on my channel, so they may not be aware of that. So again, your page is 4 inches by 7 1/4. You scored 1/2 inch on 3 sides. This part, I do recommend you do. Just gets rid of a lot of bulk. As you can see, I actually trimmed out the corner. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do that. So where your two half inch score lines intersect, see that there? That little square? What I like to do is just called mitering the corner. Just cut it on an angle, get rid of most of it, right? Because you're going to make a pocket. And you'll see why that's important in a second. So I added score tape to each one of the fins or each one of the tabs, you see, and then you're just going to want to fold it after you score it. Fold along that score line and give it a good crease. Do the same on both of the shorter sides. Do the same here. So that's going to create your pocket. But what I like to do, just to help, because sometimes you have these little flaps, everything's flapping all over the place and it gets out of hand, is I like to, and I'm right-handed so I always start on the right, I take the tape backer off of the bottom tab, fold the right side tab over, so it kind of holds that in place for you, so you can come over to the left side and do the same. So you see you have your pockets already formed. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, you also want to angle in the top of that tab. It just makes it, when you're putting tags and photo mats and things in and out, it doesn't get stuck. So, yeah. All right, so if you're using glue, you can do the same thing here. You just put a little dot of glue underneath there and hold that down for a second, and it'll hold the pocket in place for you. Otherwise, go ahead and remove your tape backing. And again, this is my left front cover. So to keep it straight, I like to keep it in my scoreboard, you know, and line everything up along the top. That just helps me keep everything nice and straight. And then what I do is just come down here and center it on the bottom. I don't know if you can see. Let me see if I can show you that. Remember, my top piece of cardstock was cut at 1/8 of an inch shorter than the height of my book. So you see that little right there? Where's my finger? See that little edge of the the cream color cardstock? That's where I like to add. I line the pocket up right along that edge, and then I center it in between. And then just stick it down. Voila! Your pocket is made. And then obviously give it a nice burnish. And then I like to take, I'll just use just another piece of paper to make sure that nothing is getting stuck. Okay, so that's your first one. That was so much fun. Let's do it again on the other side. All right, let's see if I can find that one. Okay, again, you know, another piece that is 4 by 7 1/4. You're going to score at 1/2 of an inch on 3 sides, and then we'll go ahead and fold along that crease, or all 3 creases. And just work at your own pace. It's not a race. Okay, again, we're just going to go ahead and angle those corners, get rid of that bulk. Okay, and then I can show you on this one, I actually just angled that just a little bit. You can see that, so that nothing gets stuck to it. Okay. So again, remove the backing or add your glue. So see what I mean? It just kind of holds it all in place. It just makes it so much easier. When I was first starting out, I don't know how many years ago it was now, quite a few, I used to have problems with score tape. It used to get stuck in my hair because I wouldn't even be thinking, and I would pick it up, and you know, oh, it was a nightmare. Anyway, so you have your pocket basically formed. We're just going to go ahead and take that and line that up just like we did the one on the other side. Give it a good burnish. You want to make sure that you don't go over your, what is that? Your channel, you know, before your spine starts, because you don't want to get anything to get, you know, caught up. So, that's a good view. So you can see there's both pockets on the front and the back cover. So that's done. So now you really can set this aside. All right, so we're going to go ahead. So we just made that we just made that pocket and that pocket, right? So we're going back to page 1, right? So each one of these pages is a series of, what do you want to call them? The base pages are like tubes, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. If you've seen any of my books, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So we're going to make that first page. And actually, let me take one step backwards and tell you. So we have 5 pages in the book. So there are 5 base pages. Sorry, that was upside down. And so you're going to want to make 5 base pages. And my recommendation is to go and make all the base pages first. I kind of like to do them assembly line style, but again, it's totally up to you, you know, whatever your personal preference is. So first you're going to want 5 pieces of your base color cardstock that are cut to 6 by 7 inches, okay? And then you're going to want to take that page, put it in your scoreboard, score it 1/2 inch, with your 7-inch side is in the top right corner of your scoreboard. Score it 1/2 inch. Rotate it to the other side and score 1/2 inch also on there as well. Okay. Then for the rest of your base page, we're going to actually close up the tube. You're going to want 5 pieces of the same color cardstock, or again, you can change it if you want. 5 pieces at 6 by 6. Okay. So you have 1 piece at 6 by 7 and 5 pieces at 6 by 7 and 5 pieces at 6 by 6. And then after you score it, 1/2 inch on the 2 long sides, go ahead and give it a good crease. Okay. And then, again, because you don't want any papers, any tags getting stuck, go ahead and tab those corners. So you want it to look something like that. See how it's tabbed or angled? Right, and we'll just start with one side. So we're going to close up the tube. So go ahead and remove your adhesive backer, or go ahead and add your glue to just that tab. Then we're going to take the 6 by 6 inch. So at this point, with both of your tabs folded in, both these pieces of paper are 6 by 6. So you shouldn't have too much trouble with it. But I like to do one corner at a time. So I take one corner, line up that corner. I don't think you can see it, but line up that corner, and then just follow it like that and line that up as straight as you can. I can already see mine's a little bit crooked, but that's okay. I can trim that off. So you should have something that looks like this. You can see where I'm a little bit off right there. And then come over to your other side. Add your adhesive, and then you're going to seal up the tube. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. So that is your base page. You can see it's a tube. And then what's going to happen is, I showed you this T-square binding piece, or fin if you want to call it. It's going to actually fit into the, oops, it's the wrong one. Did I cut these too long? No. It's going to actually fit into one side. If I could get my fingers to work. I might have cut these too long. No. It's going to fit into one side of the tube. This is going to adhere to the spine of my book. and then this becomes an automatic sealed pocket. And actually this will be open, it'll be sealed on this side, and that's where the tags and the large photo mats slide in. So this is what I'm calling this tube. This is your base page. Okay? So that is your base page of page 1. All right? So we just made this part. Oops, sorry, this part. I moved my camera, and now, after years of having it in the same spot, now I just don't know where it is. Sorry. So we're going to go ahead and add that pocket on. So when I originally designed this, that was not meant to be a pocket. It was actually meant to just be a flap, but I got ahead of myself and I glued it all down and it became a pocket. So one piece of advice for you, you want to make sure that you always have the openings to your tubes. You're opening one on the left-hand side, the other's obviously going to be on the right-hand side, because you just don't want to put your pages together upside down. Ask me how I know about that. Anybody that makes mini albums knows about that. So anyway, so the pocket for this page is one piece of your cardstock, 3.5 inches by 7 inches. You're going to score it at 1/2 inch on all 3 sides. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and crease it. Give it a nice crease, especially in these corners. All right, so at this point you're already a pro at making pockets. You've already made 3, or 2, yeah. So we're going to cut out those corners, and then we're going to tab or angle the tabs. You can do this angle, make it as deep as you want or as slight as you want. It's totally up to you. All right, so let's remove this. And you're going to find that this book they're very, very basic pages. If you want to make it, exactly like I do, that's great. Or you can add more flaps, you can add more tags, you can do whatever you want. But the base pages are so, so simple. All right, so we're going to go ahead, and because this pocket is actually loads from the right-hand side, you want to make sure your opening is on the left. What I like to do is turn it this way so I can see if I'm straight. And then go ahead and just line up your pocket with the edge of your page. And give it a good burnish. And there you go. So there's your pocket. And there's your other, so this will be sealed when you're binding, and this will be an open edge pocket. Pretty easy, huh? That's page 1 done. So page 2. Or page 2 or the back of page 1 is it's a taller pocket page. And for this one, you're just going to want a piece of your cardstock cut to 4.5 by 7. You can see I did not put any score tape on this yet. So I'll use glue for those of you that are using glue so you can see how I do it. Let's actually fold along those score lines. I hope I don't have too much light here for you. Hopefully you can see. All right, so we folded and scored, or we scored and folded the pocket, and let's just cut out those those corners and angle the tabs. Okay. And then, so here is my glue. So I'm going to take just and put a little dab right there and just hold that down for a second. Give that a second to catch. Art glitter glue catches pretty quickly. Oh, and one of the other supplies I forgot to mention is always have a paper towel or a baby wipe or something to catch any glue that oozes out. Okay, oops. See, this is where I get impatient. Art glitter glue dries really quickly, but I just don't like waiting. All right, so then you just go ahead and put some glue just on that tab. Make sure you get some good glue in the corners. That's probably a little too much, more than I would normally do. All right, so that was page 1. Let's turn that over. Make sure your opening is on the left. And then we're just going to go ahead and line up the bottom corners and the edges of the pocket with your page. And I knew that was too much glue because it's all over my fingers. All right, so go ahead and make sure that sticks really well. So there's page 1. There's page 2. So you can see it's a pocket. Now, if you want to, on my original one, I made like a little thumb pull with my envelope punch board. And I don't know what it is. I just am not good at using that envelope punch board. Tried many times. It just doesn't work for me. So you could use a 1-inch circle punch to make a thumb hole here before you adhere it down. There's actually plenty of room in here. You could actually go ahead and still cut. On this one, I'm just making it a regular pocket. So that is your first page. It's finished. And then what I will do later is for each one of these binding fins, after I have all the pages made, I'll go and I'll add them in, you know, like assembly line style, and then I'll adhere it to my book, and I can show you that later. So that's page 1 is done. 1 and 2, sorry. All right, page 3 and 4 is this page. And what we have here is, there is a pocket under here, and then we have a cute, it's only a 4-flap waterfall. Actually, technically could call it 5 because of that one. And what I did was use the 3x4 cut-aparts to just decorate the front of the waterfall, and you can put a photo or a journal back here. And then I keep it closed with a magnet. Again, you don't have to use a magnet. You can use seam binding. You can use any kind of ribbon you have. You can use little Velcro closures, whatever is your preference. Look at that. Isn't she pretty? That is such a pretty illustration. So that just goes right here into this pocket. Whoops, that's not the pocket. There we go. And then this one is a little thing of wheat. And then that's just a little tag I had laying around, and I put a little scrap piece of the pattern paper on it. So, and that just lives inside there. So we're going to make this. All right, so for that, you are going to want a base page. So again, if you recall, we made them 6x6. In the end, they end up being 6x6, I'm sorry. Ooh, something's not right there. Oh, what happened? Yikes. Let me see if I can open that. I have an issue. Oh, yep. My adhesive just squirted out. All right, so again, take one of your base pages, because again, you made 5. You want your openings to be on the left and the right-hand side. Okay, so you need that base page. Then what you're going to also need for the pocket, you want to adhere the pocket first, because the waterfall sits right on top of the pocket. Okay, so cut yourself a piece of cardstock 3 3/4 by 7, and then you're going to go ahead and score a 1/2 inch on all 3 sides. On 3 sides, sorry, and then fold and burnish your score lines, or crease your score lines. Then go ahead and cut out your corners and angle your tabs. So you see that? All right, so we're going to go ahead and start forming the pocket. Or keeping it out of my hair, as I like to say. And then I'm going to remove my tape backing. Alright, so here's your page, and your opening is on your left. I'm going to actually just twist this around this way so that my opening is on the bottom. Since my pocket is a side-loading pocket, I want to make sure that I line it up correctly. So I'm just going to go ahead and line it up like that. It's just easier for me to see without getting my head in the camera. So again, there's my top loading, or my side loading base page. Oh, I put that on backwards, didn't I? Dang it. Oh, no, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry. Wait. See? I told you. Make sure you watch the video before. Oh, no, so it's right. Okay. Whew. Your side, your pocket actually loads from the left-hand side, right? So you want to adhere your pocket piece to the right-hand side. Whew, thought I messed that up. Anyway, and I'm off a little bit here, but I think that's okay. It's not that big of a deal. I could probably just trim that off. Yeah, I'll trim that off. That's going to bug me. Do you see how it's off? I don't know. You know what? I'm going to leave it. So anyway, so my spine is over here on my left. My pocket's going to load from the left. And then what you're going to want to do for your waterfall is cut yourself 4 pieces of your cardstock, 3 1/4 inches by 4 3/4 inches. Okay. And then you're going to want to put each one of these pieces of cardstock into your scoreboard with the 4 3/4 inch side on the top right and score it at 1/2 inch. Each one of these pieces. So that's going to create the little flap that helps you form your waterfall. So you can score that. At this point, you don't have to angle these corners because there's really nothing, it's not a pocket, and it's going to get covered up with pattern paper anyway, so that's entirely up to you. I'm not going to do that in this case. So, I mean, I have been known to, but I don't think it's necessary here. If it's just going to bug you, then go ahead, go for it. So there's my 4 waterfall flaps. And then you're going to need a waterfall closure. If you want to use seam binding, you can use seam binding. I'm going to use magnets. So I need a closure that is 1 1/2 inches by 4 1/2 inches. And then what I do is I scored it 1/2 inch on the 4 1/2 inch side, or you can also call that on the short side. Score 1/2 inch. Then just fold along that score line and then add score tape. Okay, so then what we're going to do is bring our pocket page back in. That really is bugging me. Does it bug me that much? We're going to leave it. Okay. So you have your 4 waterfall flaps. Okay, what I am going to do though is turn mine upside down because I like to work from this way with a waterfall and go that way. So I'm going to take my first piece of 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. Again, you scored it at 1/2 inch, and you can absolutely use glue here, whatever you prefer. So I'm going to fold back that tab, or fold it under, sorry, and then come over here. And the scoreboard is fantastic in helping you keep this straight, this waterfall straight. So I'm just going to line up the edge of the pocket and the edge of the waterfall flap. So you see that? Okay. Then, and I'll go and crease it down so it doesn't flap all over. Then you take your next one, and so you see where this one ends? Whoops. See where this tab ends? You're going to take the next one, fold that tab under, after you put adhesive on it, of course, and then you're just going to line that up right where the one before it stops. So see, that just kind of helps you keep everything straight. And even if it gets a little wonky, you can always fix it. Okay. Let's take the third one. Fold that under. Butt that right up against that last one. And line it up. So see, that's where the scoreboard comes in handy, because it stops you from getting your flap crooked. Like, you can't move it that way. And then the fourth one, just gonna line that up. Oh, or you can stick it down in the wrong spot. Oy, oy, oy. There you go. That's your waterfall. So again, mine is just the littlest bit crooked, but I scored it crooked, of course, or I creased it crooked. So I will go through and just make sure each one of these is creased down really well. So that is your waterfall. So you see how easy that was. And after you make a couple, you're going to be a pro also. I know it. All right, so I'm going to grab two of my magnets. I like, well, you wouldn't know these are basic gray because I take them out of the package. But these are the basic gray large magnets that Tammy carries in her store. I order these all the time. So take out one minus, or one negative, and one positive. You got to be careful. Don't put them side by side because they will stick together. So I'm going to need those in a few minutes. The next step here is to add the closure for your waterfall. And you can determine how long you want your closure band thing to be. I try to put it close to the middle of the first waterfall flap. This one's just a little bit taller than that, but that's okay. I don't really mind that much. Yeah, so we have our 1.5 by 4.5 inch piece, and we scored it at 1/2 inch and added some score tape, or you can add some wet glue onto that flap or tab. And then just going to want to line this up, move these out of the way, line up this edge of your folded tab, just center it as best you can on that pocket. And it's inevitable, it could end up crooked. All right, so you can see it's already holding that down a little bit. So what I'm going to do next is take my two magnets, put them together so that one side's negative, one side says positive, and then just remove that little backer. Okay, so try to put this in here as straight as you can. You want to be cognizant of where the end of your flap is, because if you get it too close, your pattern paper won't cover the magnet. Not the end of the world, but you know. And also too, you want to be careful on the edge over here. Just make sure there's enough paper or enough space that your pattern paper will cover your magnet, and it'll disappear. Nobody knows it's there. Okay, and then what you do, just remove the positive one, line everything up, and then just let it fall. Whoop. And then when you open it, you should have a magnet on both sides. Then what I like to do, because I have had, projects that are a few years old, sometimes the adhesive on these lets loose, so I add a piece of score tape. I imagine the score tape could probably break loose as well, but it makes me feel better to put it on there. I don't know. Maybe I'm just nuts. So yeah, so there's page 3 done. See, we're cruising right along. There's your pocket. I don't know if you're going to be able to see. So see, there's your pocket down inside there. There's your waterfall. There's your left side opening, and your right, or your binding side opening, and your ultimate pocket. So that's page 3. All right, so now we just made that page. Now we're going to make this page, which is super duper simple. So it is just, again, the back of page 3 with a belly band. That's really all we're going to put on it. I just took one of the cardstock elements from the paper collection and put it on some chipboard and created a stopper. And then I made 2 tags. So you can see it stops right there. It doesn't fall through the belly band. You can use a sticker, you can use chipboard, you can punch something out with one of your punches and put it there, whatever you prefer. All right, so for the belly band for this page, you're going to want one piece of your cardstock that's 1 3/4 inch by 7 inches. You could definitely make this fatter. You could, since your page is 6 inches, you can make this 2 inches, so you'll have 2, 2, and 2. You can make it skinnier. It's whatever you want. But this is kind of my standard belly band size. I don't know why, but that's just how I do it. So your belly band is 1 3/4 by 7 inches. Okay, you're going to put the 7 inches on the right-hand side of your scoreboard, score it at 1/2 inch, rotate it around, and score it another 1/2 inch. Okay, pretty basic, right? So we're just going to fold over those score lines and crease them down. Okay, so now your 7-inch piece of cardstock becomes 6 inches, and oddly enough, that's the exact same width as your base page. Funny how that works out, right? So you can go ahead and remove your backer, or do it one at a time. Again, make sure your opening is on the left, and there's another opening on the right. Now I'm going to turn my page sideways to help me line it up. So you can measure here. If this is 1 3/4 inches, you can do the math. I'm just eyeballing it to try to center it in the middle of the page. That's entirely up to you. But eyeballing is just fine. Here we go. And then just stick down the other side. And there is, wait, what is this? Oops. This is pages 3 and 4. So see, we still have the tube. Page 3, page 4. Okay, I'm going to set those aside. And next is page 5. And this I'm holding closed with some seam binding that was in my design team package. What I've done here, and look at her. Isn't she gorgeous too? Whoops. Isn't she gorgeous? And so I just have one flap. I have another flap, slightly bigger, 1/2 inch bigger, and then there's a pocket. And then this has 2 of the 3x4 cut aparts, and then one of my tags. I did not back these, and I think I said in the last video I need to back those, but completely forgot. So those live inside there. There's plenty of room in that pocket also for other photos, you know, little mementos, whatever you want to put there. I love this paper. I'm a plaid girl. I love plaid, especially fall color plaid. Oh my goodness. Love it, love it, love it. And then this just ties shut. Again, you can use magnets here. But yeah, I just love the fall colors. And I made sure I left this big enough so that if you do decide to add more things into the pockets, or you want to add some more tags or some more dimension, there's plenty of room for you to go ahead and tie everything. There's plenty of ribbon, sorry, to tie the page shut. All right, so for page, what did I say, 5? Let's see, you're going to need a base page, another one of your base pages, right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to need another one of your base pages. Again, it ends up being 6 by 6. Okay, so there's your tube. Where is it? There it is. Okay. The top flap, or the shorter flap of the two, is going to be 4.5 inches wide by 5 7/8 inches tall. Okay. The bottom flap is going to be 5 inches wide by 5 7 inches. 5 inches wide by 5 7/8 inches tall. Easy for me to say. And then the pocket, which you are an expert at making pockets now, so I don't even have to tell you, but this is 3.5 inches by 7 inches tall. Okay, so we are going to actually start with the pocket, just like we did on the last one. And let me double check before I embarrass myself again. Yes, the pocket is going to come out from the left hand. It's going to load from the right hand side. So here's our pocket page. It's 3.5 by 7. We score 1/2 inch on 3 sides, cut out the corners, and then we angled the tabs. Okay, so go ahead and fold along your score lines. Give it a good crease. All 3 sides. I'm going to remove my backer. And again, your binding side is on the left. I'm just actually going to turn mine around this way, set it in my scoreboard to help me keep it straight. And I'm just going to line it up along the edge, excuse me, of my base page. And make sure I give it a really good burnish because the paper's a little bit thick with the pocket. And it makes it nice and flat. So there's your pocket. Okay? So then what we're going to do, we'll start from the bottom. We'll take the bigger of the 2 flaps, so it's the 5 by 5 7/8. We're going to score it on the right hand side, or turn it around, whichever way you want to do it. You're going to score it at 1/2 inch with the 5 inch side on the top. You're going to score it at 1/2 inch on the 5 inch side. Okay, and then we're just going to fold along your score line, give it a good crease. Okay, and you can, if you want to, angle these corners, but again, it's not a pocket, so you don't have to worry about anything getting stuck on it, and it will get covered with pattern paper as you decorate, so I say you don't have to, but if you want to, go ahead. It's your book, you do you. All right, so again, your openings are on your left and your right hand side. I'm going to turn mine around. I'm going to take the bottom left, that tab, And I'm going to line that up with this corner here. Well, now they're not exactly the same size, so this is 6 inches. Your base page is 6 inches. If you recall, I cut this to 5 7/8. I just like to do that so it doesn't get caught on anything. Now, at this point, you can line it up at the top of the page, and you'll have that little bit of overhang on the bottom. I'm just going to eyeball and try to center that. Try to keep it as straight as I can. And there's the first one. So there's your flap. Okay. Now the second one, the 4.5 by 5 7/8, you're going to want to put it in your scoreboard, and on the 4.5 inch side, score it at 1/2 inch. And then I fold along that score line. Give it a good crease. Add your adhesive. And then this flap is going to lay right on top of the one you just set down. So they both should be the same height, so you should be able to line them up pretty easily. And there you go. So you can see there's that flap, and there's the other flap. And again, they're going to get covered, excuse me, with pattern paper. So no need to worry about them. They will disappear. So at this point, you can decide whether you want to use magnets to hold it closed. I think I will use seam binding again, but I don't have... I mentioned this is going to be a tween album. I don't have any pink or purple here at my fingertips, so I'll have to add it later. But let's just imagine this is seam binding. So what you'll want to do is just add some to the back of this page, because it's going to get covered with pattern paper. And then you're going to also want to add some over here, so that when you close the two, you can tie them together. If you have any questions on that, I know I've used it in many of my other videos. I know many of my fellow design team members on Tammy's channel have done it. Tammy herself has done seam binding closure, so you can find help. But if you need help, just get in touch with me. I'll be happy to walk you through it. And you can get in touch with me via YouTube or my email address, or even on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations. You can find me over there too. Just tag me or a messenger and I will get back with you. Okay, so that is the front of page 5. All right, so the back, I think, was just as simple. Yeah, oh, well, it depends on what you call simple. So I made these little crisscross pockets. Basically, this was one pocket, and this is what it looked like, okay? And then I just decided to go ahead and just cut them on an angle. It looks difficult, but it's actually really easy to do. You're probably going to laugh at me because, wait, how did I do this first? Okay, I don't know. But anyway, so it ends up looking like this. This ends up looking like this. And it goes like this on the page, and then they're going to crisscross, and that's going to be your pocket. So you're going to laugh because it's actually very easy. Let me put this back. So this is, look at that color. Does that just scream fall? Oh, I just love it. Then I made this little book. This is actually a policy envelope. Not a policy envelope, a coin envelope. It's one of these. And I thought the color matched perfectly with that piece of pattern paper. So that becomes an automatic pocket. You know, you could probably put stuff in there if you wanted to. I just added a piece of paper and one of the little sticker things. Isn't that awesome? Excuse me. Okay. All right, so let's make that. So set your base page aside. All right, and what we're going to do, or what you're going to need, just as if you were cutting, making any other pocket, get yourself a piece of 4x7 cardstock. On the 7-inch side, you're going to score a 1/2 inch, rotate it, score it at a 1/2 inch, rotate it one more time, score it at a 1/2 inch. Okay? Excuse me. And then what I did, you can, by all means, you can leave this a regular pocket. You know, a top-loading pocket, make a normal pocket. But I actually really love these angled pockets. So, actually, before we cut it, let's go ahead and score or fold on our score lines. Sorry, I just have a tickle in my throat all of a sudden. Okay. So, just fold those out of the way for a minute. So that's what your pocket would normally look like. All we're going to do is go from this very tippy top of this corner, and we're going to angle it and cut down to this corner, right? So the top left to the bottom right. And the way that I do that, I can't be bothered using a ruler. Not that I can't be bothered, I'm just not good at using a ruler and a craft knife. Excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and see that corner. I'm going to line that up in my cutter. Then I'm going to line up that other corresponding or opposite corner in my cutter. And I'm not sure if you can actually see that. And then I'm just going to hold my breath and make a cut. So you're left with something that looks like this, right? So basically you just chopped it right in half. All right, so let's go ahead and on this piece, let's just go ahead and cut out the rest of that corner. Right, because it's going to fold and attach in your book like that. And then you're like, uh-oh, look, I have overhang. So you're just going to go ahead and trim that off. Oops. And then trim off this piece down here. This is really not going to show because it's going to get covered up, but you don't want anything interfering with your pocket. So that's what one side's going to look like. And then this side, excuse me. Yep. Oh, I put the score tape on the wrong side. Dang it. Oh well, I guess I'll leave it there. You're going to want to fold that tab over. Or under, sorry. And then let's trim off that piece. And then you're like, but Anne Marie, I don't have a tab here. Well, we're just going to use a bead of glue and attach it to the book that way. Okay? So let's bring your page back. So this is your page 5. The back is page 6. Again, make sure your openings are on the left and right. Right, I'm going to remove my score tape. Okay, so the bottom left is going to line up with the bottom left, and try to keep it as straight as you can along the side of your page and along the bottom. Give that a nice burnish. So you see you have that pocket. Then we're going to do this, pretty much the same thing, and line this one up this way. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see how that forms a pocket? There you go. But so we're going to add some adhesive. I just need to add score tape there. Not score tape, glue, sorry. And I'm also going to add glue right along this bottom to just seal the bottom shut. Oh, that's too much. I opened a new bottle of glue today, and I'm just not used to the flow. All right, so let's go ahead and line that up as best you can along the side and along the bottom. Don't forget your pen and your art glitter glue because it will dry out. All right, let me show you. So here you have your pocket over here. So you see this is kind of a pocket, and underneath is also a pocket. So it's kind of like a bypass pocket, if you want to call it that. It's pretty cool. And then when you go to put the pattern paper on, you'll just do the same thing. You'll cut the pattern paper to the same size, actually probably just like a 1/4 of an inch smaller than the size of your pocket, and then you'll cut it on an angle just like you did this, and it will slide right in there, and everything will match up and look beautiful. I promise. It's really, really easy. Once you do it the first time, you'll be like, oh, okay, I get it. So yeah, so there's pages 5 and 6. We're cruising right along, peeps. All right, page number 7, very easy page. It is just a large flat page, and there is a magnet in there that just holds it shut. So what you'll be able to do is put photos in there or put a photo mat down in there, and it'll hold it in place. Okay? So for that, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, you're going to need a base page, 6 by 7. So this should be your 4th base page that you made. And then you're going to also want for your flap one piece that's 4 3/4 by 6, and then on the 4 3/4 inch side, you're going to score it a 1/2 inch, just making a tab. And then fold your tab under, or fold along your score line, sorry, and crease it. Now you can decide, there's different things you can do, however you want to do it. You can put your tab at the top like I did, so you'll have a tab that comes from the top. You can put it along the side. You could put it along the bottom because you're going to have a magnet. That magnet will hold that shut if it goes from along the bottom. Oh, that's better. Or you can bring it from this side. It's just whatever you want to do. Actually, that's not better. It's whatever you prefer. And since I did mine on the top, I'm going to just stick with that. So remove your backer. I'm going to turn my page upside down, making sure that my openings are on the left and the right. And then just add, I'm just going to line this up right along the edge with my base page. Okay, and there you have a flap. You can add a pocket down here. You can add another waterfall. You can do whatever you want to do. It's your project. You make it your own. So let's go ahead and add one more magnet. I just have one left in this package. Okay, so there's a plus and the minus. See how they stick together? They're like, there's your plus and your minus. And you can just decide on your over here where you want the closure to be, or the magnet to be, to hold it closed. I'm going to, I don't know, maybe right here. Take off the other side. The pressure. There you go. Right? Couldn't be more simple. Because I'm paranoid, I'm going to add my score tape. Oh, one thing I neglected to say. Again, you can use on any of the flaps here, on any of the pockets, any of the flaps in any book you make. You could use edge punches. You could use edge dies. You can use crocodile's corner chompers, whatever. Or you can just, you can round the corners. You can use a corner chomper. You can angle it. What else do I have? I have scallop. You could stub the corners to make it look like a ticket. Let's see what else is there. Angle, photo, stub, scallop, deco punch, round, 1/4 inch round, 1/2 inch round, however you want to do it. Or you could just leave it plain. Some books I have where I mix and match it, some I just leave plain. It just depends on my mood. So anyway, that's page 7, done. So let's flip it over for page 8. And that is this page here. It has a 5x5 flap. Then it also has just a photo mat. Now this doesn't pull out. I matted this and added one of the elements from the element sheet. So you can just slide a photo right underneath there. You can put a stopper down here, however you want to do it. I just love it. So there's page 7. The back is page 8. And for that flap, you're going to want a piece of your base color cardstock at 5 by 5.5 inches. You put that in your scoreboard on the 5.5 inch side and score it at 1/2 inch. Okay, and then fold along that score line. And then I did angle the corners on this one. I wonder if I was thinking I might make the page a little different, but you don't have to, again, because it'll get covered with the pattern paper. So again, make sure your page is right side up. Both your openings are on the right, on both the right and the left. I'm going to turn mine sideways to make it easier for me to line it up. And then I'm just going to eyeball where the center is. You can put it at the top, you can put it at the bottom. You can do whatever you want. Again, you can make this one a top loading or a flap from the top, from the left side, but I just happen to have mine come in from the right-hand side. And I'm trying to use my grid right here to try to center it, but I think I'm slightly off. Oh yeah, I'm way off. But that's okay. It looks awesome. So you can decide here if you want to put that magnet from this side is actually right here. If I had another magnet, which I probably do in a drawer somewhere, I can add a magnet here and it'll kind of share with the prior magnet and hold that shut. So, but I'm okay with that. I mean, the pattern paper I used was so heavy. It was nice and thick and just beautiful, authentic paper. It just held the flap down naturally. So again, you could use seam binding. You can use, like I said, a magnet. You can use ribbon. You can use, oh, what's that called when you put a brad on? A swing tab. You could put a swing tab in there. There's a lot of choices. You can just Google it on YouTube. You know, flap closure, mini album flap closures, and you'll find so much information. So there you go. And also, too, a lot of the my fellow design team members, they use different kinds of closures, too. So Lori Parker Thomas has a really cool one that I saw where she used like a elastic, not rubber bands, but elastic banding, like that elastic stretchy cord stuff. And she had like one of those hitch posts here. Oh my God, it was so cute. It was from her project a couple months ago. Incredible. So anyway, that's page, what, 7 and 8? Done. So let's move on to page 9. This is the front of page 9. It's a tall pocket. Oops. It's a tall pocket. And then I also have just a little booklet. This one I glued down, but the one I'm going to show you is you can leave it. I didn't mean to glue it down. I don't know why I glued it down, but you can just add, I'm going to leave this out actually, add a paper clip to hold it into the pocket. Okay, so this is your last base page. So this is pages number 9 and 10. So this should be your 5th base page that you made. All right, so for the pocket, you're going to want to cut yourself a piece of your base cardstock, 5.5 by 7. And then you put it in your scoreboard, score it a 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Okay, just like we've done all along. And let's go ahead and fold on those score lines. and start the pocket. Okay, so here's page number 9, making sure that your openings are on the correct side. Whoops, almost forgot. Okay, so line up your pocket edges with the edge of your page. I love it when it lines up perfectly. Okay. You can hear I'm applying a lot of pressure because I really want to crease that, because you see page gets a little thick. So there's your pocket. All right, and so next is we have this little, did I write it out here? I have a piece that's 4 1/4 by 9 1/4. And what I originally used this for was, it was going to be a little booklet for some of the 3 by 4 cut aparts. So that's why I made it 4 1/4, so that there was a little bit of a border around it. But I actually meant to score it at 3 1/4, and I ended up only scoring it at 3 1/8. But it works because you can trim down your journaling cards. So on the 9 1/4 inch side in your scoreboard, you can score it at 3 1/8 and then 6 1/4. And then you kind of accordion fold that to give you something like that. All right, so what you can do is, at this point, cover this with pattern paper. Oops, sorry, cover your pocket with pattern paper, and you could slide a small piece of pattern paper up there, and then glue this down, right? Or if you're going to, if you want to wait, if you want to do 1 page at a time, you don't want to, you could just store it in there until you're ready to decorate this page. Or you can just add it into your pocket with a cute little paper clip of some sort. So that's what I originally meant to do, and for some reason I glued it down, and I'm not sure why I glued it down. I don't know. It was out of control. All right, so that's page 9. See, when I told you this was easy, this is definitely easy. Okay, and then page 10, pretty much even easier. And then what I did was, I used these coin envelopes that I showed you earlier, and I just glued it down, or I used score tape, or I put down the pattern paper, put some score tape on it, and I actually have a magnet. Don't I? Do I have a magnet on there? Yep, I have a magnet right there, and right there, right there, and right there, and that's holding that shut. Don't have to have a magnet. You don't have to use an envelope. I used one of these little adhesive, what are these called? Hook and loop, or what is this called? Velcro. Little circle dots. I'm not a big fan of them because they don't hold very well, but I stored just a few of these. Look at that one. Isn't that one gorgeous? Oops, she's upside down. And then that one, squash. So I just put those in there. They're just some extras that can be used throughout the book. So if you don't have any of those coin envelopes, I don't know if I said this already, but I was just cleaning out my craft room and came across a big stash of them. So, yay. And I decided they worked perfectly. The colors work perfectly for fall. But their dimensions are 6 1/2, I believe, by 3 1/2. And since my pages were only 6 by 6, I actually scored it at 1 1/4 inches on the long side. I scored it at 1 1/4 inches and added some score tape. Okay, and then making sure page 10 is going in the right direction. What I would do first is cover this with pattern paper, which is what I did. You don't have to, but because you can actually place this, you know, wherever you're going to place it. Cover this with pattern paper, and then you're fine, and then this will be hidden. But I didn't so much mind that, because mine was a contrasting pattern. I was fine with it. Or if you want to, you can hide this inside there and have it come out from this way. Oh, that's cute too. Have it come out from that direction, and then there's your pocket. Or you could do the reverse, or you could have it come from down this way. Well, it's kind of awkward that way. But, you know, whatever you decide you want to do. Again, it's your project. You do what you want to do. But if you don't have one of these envelopes, you can always make one. I've actually made these in the past. They're pretty simple. You can just go ahead on YouTube and search for making a coin envelope from scratch. I know I've seen a million tutorials for that. Or you could just make your own tab, or flap, I'm sorry. Same dimensions, 6.5 by 3.5, and then just score in 1 1/4 inch. And then you have the exact same thing, right? Except it's just not a pocket. You can make it into a pocket because, again, why? You're a pro at pockets by now. So you can make your own pocket, or you could just leave it a flap. You could put the flap come down this way and seal it up with some seam binding. It's your project. You do what you want to do. Yeah, so I hope you make this. This was really easy, really fun. And again, it's the pages are pretty basic, and you can make them. You know, you can do what you want with them. You know, the pockets. You could have added more flaps here. You could add a flap here to cover the pocket. I love this waterfall. Each one of them has one of these. Each one of the 5 base pages has one of these big, I think these are, I forgot that fast. These are 5 7/8 by 5 7/8 piece of the pattern cardstock. I think it's the Authentic Spectrum cardstock with the dots on one side and the stripes on the other. Yeah, and they each fit right inside each one of your base pages. So there's 5 of those. I showed you these pages. Look at this one. Look at that girl. How sweet is she? She's adorable. So yeah, so this awesome paper collection. I can't say enough how much I absolutely love it. Oh, this, let me pull this one out. I don't think I showed you this. There's the big tag, the orange, dots and stripes, and then another one of the 3x4s. And then, oh, I did make this. This is just a little booklet that I made. Just out of some of the linen cardstock, the artisan cardstock. It is 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, so you'll want to cut a piece of cardstock that is 10 1/2 by 5 1/4. And then the inside pages, I just took 2 pieces of the artisan cardstock and I cut them at 10 inches by 5, I imagine. Yep. And then I scored it at 5 inches and then just attached them together with some of that elastic cord. And then it becomes an automatic journal. Or you can just write, like if you go, I don't know, since this is fall themed, if you go to a pumpkin patch, or you go apple picking, or maybe you do both, or maybe you go on a hayride, or whatever, that would just be really fun to journal about the entire day or the entire experience, and leave it in there. So that is my project. Oh, one other thing. So I get a lot of questions about how I attach my seam binding and my ribbon and all the junk I put on the sides. I just determine where the center is after I add my pages in. I determine where the center is at the top of the book. Sometimes this one is slightly off center, but it's okay. And then I use my crop-a-dile. Oh, this thing, this big beast. Makes it easy to chomp right through the chipboard and the cardstock. And I make a hole there, and I just put the ribbon through. ribbon or seam binding. And then what I did here is with some of the scrap pieces of the pattern paper. I didn't realize I did it. I actually meant to have stripes on one side and polka dots on the other, but I don't know. I think my OCD just said, no way, sister. Anyway, so I just cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I cut 2 of each of these colors. Actually, 2 of each color, 1 of each design of the leaf die that I have. It's like a lawn fawn leaf, a lawn fawn die, and how adorable. And I just glued it, sandwiched the end of the ribbon or the seam binding there. Just adorable, and it makes such a big impact. You know, the only thing it would be better is if it was sparkly. And I just had an idea. Oh, I might do that. I might go and use, put some art glitter glue around the edges of each one and dip it in some gold glitter. Ooh, that would be pretty. Anyway, so that's my book. That's how you put the pages together. I hope you make this, and if you do, please tag me on social media. You know what's the funnest thing ever is when I'm on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations, or even if I'm sitting at work and I get a notification that somebody tagged me when they put up a picture of one of my albums that they make. I mean, I love seeing what everybody makes, no matter who the designer is, but it makes me so proud and so happy. So I hope you like it. Like I said, don't be intimidated. It's super easy. I don't necessarily show how I decorate the covers because everybody likes what they like, right? Some people may not like this little montage I have here, whatever you want to call it. These are like little velvet leaves that I've had laying around forever, and this is like a crunchy Prima flower that I've had for ages. Some people may not like that, you know? I don't know. But let me know in the comments if you want me to show you how I decorate the cover. I'd be more than happy to do that. So, again, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for stopping by and watching. And, again, if you do make this, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it, no matter what you decorate it with. Fall. And that's the beauty of it, because it can be used for any theme. It could be used for a baby. It could be used for a wedding. It could be for, I don't know, travel, anything. It's pretty basic, and you can make it as fancy as you want. So thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you next time. I did get my next design team package 2 days ago, I think it was. Wait till you see that one. So, yeah, I will see you all later, and everybody have a really nice weekend, and I'll be back in a few days. Thanks. Bye.